Welcome to the Stirring the Gumbo Pot podcast, the podcast about the history, the culture, and the accomplishments of Black people. This podcast aims to inspire, educate, empower, and celebrate the lives of Black folk. I am your host, The Cajun Peach, and thank you for tuning in. Now let's get this pot stirring. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Stirring the Gumbo Pot podcast. I would like to welcome you all to this last episode of a four-part series where I partnered with Ms. Valerie Jefferson, who is let me get it straight this week, she is the president of the Women's Caucus of the Amalgamated Transit Union in New Orleans, the New Orleans chapter. And Valerie and I have been, over the course of the last few weeks, have had the opportunity to celebrate women's history. So this whole series has been about women's history and celebrating women in labor specifically. So this week, I have the honor of having a very good friend of mine as our guest today, Dr. Willa Thompson. And I'm just going to go ahead and tell y'all about who Dr. Thompson is. She is a world travel doctorate prepared, board certified psychiatric nurse practitioner. She has over 39 years of healthcare experience and over 16 years of mental health care experience. Dr. Thompson has worked inpatient, outpatient, residential, court ordered, drug reentry, and virtual care. She is a New Orleans native with a compassionate heart to serve the people. She's a very close friend of mine for over 25 years. I am proud to have her join us today on the Stirring the Gumbo Pot podcast. So please help me welcome my dear friend, Dr. Willa Thompson.
Oh, thank you. What a wonderful introduction. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I am so proud of what you are doing for the community.
Thank you so much, Willa. Now, today's episode, we're going to talk about mental health in the workplace and how that looks, because there's a lot going on now with just the whole mental health, specifically in the Black communities, and how we're in desperate need of just mental health, both men and women. But today we're talking about women. Now, there was a story recently in the headlines. I don't know the doctor's name, but I do know she was a faculty member at Lincoln University, an HBCU in somewhere in Missouri. And as a result of, I believe it was workplace bullying, took her own life. And she left a note indicating that she was being harassed and behind the scenes and by people in high positions who she felt like was bullying her. And so Valerie and I just wanted to kind of talk about that. So that's our topic for today, and you're our guest. So let's start off the conversation by talking about workplace triggers, I think, because the word trigger, for some people may not know what a trigger is. So you can probably start maybe explaining to us what a trigger is. But I have my personal triggers. I didn't realize that I had triggers until I got triggered, right? And then I learned what the mental description of was. And for me, it's like when you have an instant or an episode or just a scenario, a real life incident with people who may hurt your feelings, or you have an experience where it takes you back to a place that's traumatic in a way.
Yeah.
And so that kind of like sets you off, right? Like it either you respond in a way in which you might like go in and just like close off and not talk and not express yourself emotionally, or it can be something violent or something more erratic. You just don't know. So just hear from you about workplace emotional triggers and what that means and your take on that.
Well, I agree with you. A trigger can be anything that makes you go back to a time that was traumatic for you. It can be anything from something that was said, a way that a said thing was said, like someone yelling at you or someone getting in your personal space, or it could be a smell or a song, something that brings back a traumatic, is anything that can bring back a traumatic time for you. And those things are subjective. There, a trigger is whatever you says a trigger is. Oftentimes people are say, oh, just get over it, or you're too sensitive or whatever. But that's so wrong, because triggers are subjective. Your feelings are subjective. If you say, you know what, you really hurt my feelings with that, and I say, oh girl, all I did say was shut up. Well, maybe you were told shut up all your life. Maybe you were told you don't mean anything, which everything come out your mouth is stupid and you need to shut up. Maybe you were traumatized by that word, and me saying that is a trigger for you. You see what I'm saying? So we have to learn to be able to set boundaries and not allow people to minimize what we're feeling. It may be something that sounds, minimal or mediocre to me, but I don't know what you've been through. So I have to respect you and respect your boundaries. A trigger is what you say a trigger
Exactly.
is.
I agree. I agree. I agree with that because I've had just recently incidents at work where I was triggered and I kind of just got into my shell. I shut down. I stopped communicating with my team and they noticed it. And no one came to me because I think they were kind of afraid because they noticed the change in me. So I gave myself some time because I needed it. And then I approached them, and that's how I dealt with it. And we had to have a conversation in order for me to kind of like get over it. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
yeah, I think it's always good to kind of like just take a break. I can't tell people how to respond to it because everybody's different, but that's how I handle when I'm triggered in my life. And people who are close to me, they know I think once I've been triggered that when she shut down, you know, what did I do? But that's not always the case. Some people, like for the lady, the faculty member, for example, she just like said that was it. So hers was more severe. I wish that someone had intervened. I wish that she had found or sought out help after all of this stuff was going on. I can't believe that, someone of that stature, they allowed this, to go on like this. So that's unfortunate for her. So leading into from coming off of that, when I was in college, I had taken a course called managerial behaviors or something to that effect, right? And that's when I learned that managers are not all the same and they manage differently. And some of them we know are not the best managers and they have their own different managing styles, right? Some are, what we call crazy managers. I don't want to describe people as crazy because that's a sensitive and that might be a trigger for someone.
Yeah.
I don't mean to trigger anybody, but just, their behaviors are such that it's kind of extreme, but they keep it to a level where they're functioning in their dysfunctional, I think, management. Maybe that's a better
Hmm.
way to describe that. But are there anything like red flags we should look for, or do you know of any type of behaviors that we should say, okay, I'm dealing with someone who I don't know if I could work with this person? Have you ever had any experience in dealing with that?
Oh my God, that's a very good question. But I wanted to kind of piggyback or go back to something you said in the comment when you said you shut down and then you have to have time to get over it. I hate
Yes.
when people say get over it, because sometimes you can't just get over it. And you have to have time to process that thing effectively and then file it away effectively. And you can't tell me to get over something because you don't know what I've been through prior to that
Exactly.
incident. You know what I'm saying? So you
Yes.
got to let me process things in my own time, in my own way. That's why I always tell people a good therapist is like a good pair of shoes. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Everybody need a good pair of shoes, because that's someone that you can have to help you to process things effectively and appropriately, and file them away so that you can get on to the next thing, because it's always going to be something else, whereas I might talk to her. This lady is like a sister to me, and she tell me some things, and I'll be like, girl, come on, let's go bust their windows, you know what I'm saying? Or I'll tell her something that inappropriate, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, she starts swinging and I'm behind her. Instead of saying don't do that, I'm swinging with her because this my girl, you see what I'm saying? Whereas she needs somebody that's gonna be professional, and at the same time her conversation be HIPAA protected. That's where it's not gonna go outside of that room. And I'm telling Susie and Molly and Jesse, oh girl, so and so said this and so said that. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
you have to have we should have that time. We should be able to have that space where we can talk about those things and get them out and process them effectively. But sometimes you can't get over things. And another thing I hate when people say, and I know I'm religious, I love the Lord. Let me just say this. But they tell you pray about it. Sometimes you need a little bit more than
Yes,
prayer.
I agree with that. I agree
You
with that
know,
because the Lord can't come down here and do the work for you.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah, sometimes you need a little bit more. But back to what you were saying, I just kind of deviated and I wanted to touch on that a little bit. But back to what you were saying, there are a lot of red flags that we don't pick up on, because sometimes we want things that are not good for us, but we think that they are naturally the next step in our career, and we think that that's that good thing we need. But they're they there are things like, if you see a job and you want a job and it's a high turnover, and every 6 months you see a position at that firm available. You know what I'm saying? Or if you see people, you go into the office for your initial interview and people just look like they sucking on a lemon. Everybody's unhappy and racing around or looking bitter. You know what I'm saying? Those are
Mhm.
red flags. You see, and if a company is a manager or whatever sitting there, he's talking to you and you're asking him questions, and he's fast talking you or going over the questions and just minimizing the concerns that you're voicing to him. That's a red flag as well. But there's some pages you can go on for reviews, like I think it's called like the Ladder. It's
Yep.
a,
Right. Mhm.
a place where you can get jobs too. They post jobs,
Human
but they
resources, yeah, human resources portal
yes,
where
they
you
well you can
can,
look at
can rate.
reviews. You
Yeah.
can look at
Mhm.
reviews for companies, and it's also, I think it's called Glassdoor. They have reviews for companies, just like they are looking at us and looking at our resume and reviewing our resume and researching us. We need to research them too, and look at what the employees are saying as well as their customers. And they'll give you insight as to what's really going on at the job, because they're all going to polish it up and make it look shiny and bright to you.
Right.
But once you
Right.
get in, that's when you see where it's getting down and dirty at. But sometimes
Right.
we can get a hint of that before we get there
Right.
by just looking at those websites and checking out some reviews.
Right. I agree with that because I've seen where I'm often asked, like when I would go to those websites and I'm interested in applying for positions and I put my resume information in and it captures that information, then in turn what happens is it'll ask me about my job and how do I feel about it. So they do surveys
That's
on
right.
people who and they get, and that's how they come up with the ratings and things like that and responses that, so people can have that as a tool. So when they're selecting, like you said, we have to interview these people just like they're interviewing us.
That's right.
So that kind of leads me into our next topic: toxic work environments, right? Because one job that I recently left was, oh my God, I could not wait to get out of there because not only was the work overwhelming, the workload was just horrendous and it was so stressful. Oh my God, I was already going on leave for a medical procedure, but I had to just take a mental health break before I went off into my personal procedure because it was just so stressful. I didn't want to go into my procedure stressed. And the
Yes.
doctor, allowed me, he confirmed that I really needed to take a break before I went because I was leaving there and the manager piling all this stuff on me, knowing that I would be out about a month, and she was just cramming it on and stressing me out and and that is one example of toxic work environments. Do you know what I mean? So there's so many more and so many different scenarios and so many
Mhm.
different people who are affected that now, I don't I think now you can if you get a doctor to say that you need this mental break. People are not taking mental health breaks. It's crazy. Back in the day it was unheard of. I guess we just at that time back then, even though we were stressed out, we just worked through it. Now, through a lot of laws and things now, they have to recognize that as mental health excuse. So how much do you know about that part of it and being able to take time for yourself when you feel like you just like overwhelmed and stressed from a job?
Well, you should have mental health days. If you're a full-time employee, they usually break that down where you're allowed to take days. But there again, that's if you're mental, if you that there again, that's if you're a full-time employee.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these lower paying jobs, and I hate to use that, I want to be politically correct and respectful, but jobs like Burger King and Waffle House and Home Depot, jobs like that, they're avoiding paying, they avoid hiring people full time and giving you the benefits by giving you part-time but giving you full-time hours. And
Right.
that's that, it's sad. So you're not getting the health insurance, you're not getting the required vacation time and sick time and stuff like that. So that's one thing. But the thing you were asking me about, you should have mental health days. But if you've gotten to the point where it's gotten so bad and you feel like you it's affecting your health, it's a few things that you can do. I took a couple of notes, um and there's steps you can take. First of all, you can, one, talk to your supervisor or manager and ask that you have a lighter load on your job, or ask for assistance with particular tasks if you feel like you're being overwhelmed. You can also make sure that you're taking care of yourself in the meantime. And it's hard because when you're feeling overworked and overwhelmed at work, you tend to have more anxiety, where you have the tension, where you have the stress, where you have the difficulty focusing and staying on task. And most of the time, when you get like that, you wind up avoiding dealing with that said task because it just gives you more anxiety. So then you wind up waiting to the last minute to do things, and you wind up more anxious because now you're running behind. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
Unproductive.
that happens. Yes,
Yeah.
you make
Yeah.
sure you try to eat healthy. You take breaks. You take your lunch break, because employers are discouraging you from taking your lunch break. They're not even pushing that. And then, if all else fails, you talk to your primary care physician about your mental health and telling them that tell them about the symptoms you're having, whether you're having trouble going to sleep or staying asleep, whether you're having the anxiety during the day and avoidance of work tasks, where you're having racing heartbeat on the way to work, whatever the symptoms are. And what they can do is give you a referral to a mental health professional, and you talk to them and you get your therapist or whatever you need to help you to deal with that, or medication. And if it gets to a situation where it's so bad, there's FMLA, Medical Leave Act, where you can take time off from work. Yes, it's called Family Medical Leave Act, or FMLA. That's what most people
Well, I
say.
think most people call it FMLA,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so everybody can kind of know what we're talking about.
Yes,
Okay.
that's it. Correct.
Mhm.
That's it.
Mhm.
And so you are legally able to take time off from work, but you have to have that time accrued.
Right.
It just protects you from losing your job while you take
Exactly.
that time off. It won't give you time. If you don't have vacation time or sick time accrued, you won't get money while you're off. It just
It's
protects your job for that
right.
particular
Job
time. And
security.
you guys know that. Val, you know
Yeah.
more. You can
Yeah.
speak on that part,
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
about that. But, those are some steps that you can take, because let me tell you something, our mental health is precious. You understand? And you can allow these people, these jobs to make you drop your plate. What I mean,
Mm.
people say crack up or have a mental break, and we'll put it back together. We'll put you in the hospital. I'll put you in the hospital and give you medicine, and I'll help you piece it back together. But where that break with that is going to always be fragile. It's just like scar tissue. You're going to really have to bubble wrap your health, mental health, that is, from then on. You see? So while you have this thing together, you guard it and you start looking at things that you can take off your plate that don't concern you. And most of the time, as mothers, we're nurturing, we're protective, and we're always taking on things that are not necessarily our responsibility. So we have to look at our plate and start establishing boundaries when we are having struggles with our mental health, and start taking away things that don't have anything to do with us, and start looking for ways to embrace our mental health, to help to improve our quality of life, developing positive coping skills, getting rest, working out, eating better, finding things that we enjoy doing, learning to play an
Mhm.
instrument, whatever it be. Everybody's positive coping skills are different, but we have to focus on that. And oftentimes we push ourselves to the back, and we're the last ones we look at until it's too late. When we're about to
Until
drop that plate, then we start scrambling like, oh my God, I can't take it no more. Start it off now before it gets bad.
Um, okay, I'm sorry. I took the opportunity to find out what the name of the HBCU administrator's name who took her life.
Okay.
Her name is Antoinette, they call her Bonnie Kendia Bailey. She is a university alumni. She was an alum of the university and the vice president of student affairs of Lincoln University in Jefferson City, Missouri. So I'm probably going to dedicate this episode to her in the
Mhm.
end, because I think this is a very sensitive topic. And then there's so many people out here who still, are suffering in their jobs, and they're afraid that they may lose their jobs if they speak out. And then that causes that stress, it more stress. You're already stressed, and then you have to be compounded with additional stress of being fearful of losing that good job that they call them, right? That's what they call them. Yeah. So dedicated this to Miss Antoinette, Miss Bonnie, as they call her. So I think you touched on everything we wanted to talk about today. Well, not everything, because we could go on and on with this topic for some hours, to be honest with you. But we just wanted to take the opportunity today. You did mention some healthy mental habits as you were talking about the toxic work environments and places that have toxicity. But if you know of any other, like for me personally, I think working out, when I was in Atlanta, I used to go and walk a lot up Stone Mountain. So natural settings was a big thing for me. Outdoors, being outdoors. Those are just things that off the top of my head, like you said, getting enough rest. And I'm trying to just find things to escape, watching a good movie, or just going out to a park or spending time with family and friends. I think those things help to aid in
Yes.
like de-stressing yourself from a lot of those toxic environment, toxic jobs. But most importantly, get help if you
Yes.
feel like you're just at a place where it's nothing you're doing, or no one is coming to help, or you've tried to talk to people but they're just not hearing you. Seek out help. There's a national I'm getting ready to look up the suicide prevention phone number, and I'm going to put that at the end of this episode. But Valerie, do you want to say anything about what we talked about so far with mental health as it relates to the women in labor? Go
Yeah.
ahead if you want to.
Yes. Well, I'm gonna sit here and listen to Miss Cajun or Peach and Dr. Thomas. You all is having a great conversation that will empower many of us. I'm sure it will empower men as well, but show enough the women's. So I really truly thank you, Dr. Thomas, for joining us today. I also want to touch on a little about what you said about mostly counseling, like stress on our jobs, intimidation. I want to say bullying. Uh,
Bullying.
yes, bullying. So, with that effect, do you think that, especially the employees that work in public industry, like the restaurants, the hotels, the hospitality, transportation, we work in like the firemen, the policemen, we work in the public industry. Do you think will help us as employees a lot if we was offered I'm gonna say counseling on our job counseling? That means that every other day or they have a counselor office in the office. Now on the previous job or the jobs that I know of that they have that's available for the companies are the EAP. That is the Employee Assistance Program, right? The employee has to go in, file the paperwork, fill out the information, then they have to go see a counselor or psychiatrist. But sometimes it's something like an in-house, right? The employee feel like they are being intimidated. That means that some companies they have I'm gonna say a company and a labor officer, relation officer. So they feel like they can go to the relation officer and they'll talk to that person. But guess what? That person is hired by the company. So in the meantime, the employee still feels stressed out. But if they bring in a neutral person that has experience and everything, that they could go to that person that's on the property so that they can go that's release it. Sometimes a person doesn't might need to release it because they might have stress at work, stress at home, or having trouble when they coming to work, are single parents, raising a teenager. So but nevertheless, what you say about something, give us some kind of idea that will help an employee out there. They still want to come to work. They don't want to lose their pay. They don't want to lose their hours. They still want to come to work every day. So you gave us some hints about, go to FEMA. That is good. That is so enough, right? I don't need to add nothing on that because you said everything about that. You say you take breaks. You talk to your supervisor. You go talk to your doctor. But sometimes a person like want to have a conversation. Just release it. So I'm thinking that the companies ought to have a person on their property coming in and talk to the employees, have something like a de-escalating meeting, counseling meeting, something like that. So,
Of course they need it. Even your the members of your organization need it because you're dealing with the public, and you're dealing with the when you're dealing with the public, you're dealing with all types of attitudes, you're dealing with all types of things that go along with it. You know what I'm saying? In public transportation, I see some of those things on TikTok and Facebook where the they're attacking the bus driver fighting back and getting penalized or getting fired. But what you supposed to do if somebody beating the hell out of you? You see what I'm saying? I don't know. So then and then you know what I'm saying? You're seeing all different kind of things. So of course you need some type of um space to be able to de-escalate, some kind of debriefing after you're in the middle of or witness a traumatic event. But my thing is, okay, you have me sitting there and willing and able to counsel your employees, but are you going to penalize these employees or stigmatize these employees for coming to talk to me? I
mm,
know there are military forces that um penalize their employees if they seek mental health. They're not
ooh,
able, or they're labeled and not eligible for promotion. You
mm,
see, so then that forces them to hold that hurt, that pain,
Mhm.
that
oh,
whatever it is they're feeling inside, that
Right.
torment, that whatever
Right.
inside. Because
Right.
if they seek help, then they're going to be stigmatized. They're not going to be eligible for a promotion. You see,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
such a stigma associated, even to this day. It's better now, but it's such a
Yeah.
stigma associated with seeking out mental health. And the stigma should be associated with not seeking out mental health, because those are the people that are wreaking havoc on society. And police officers mainly, like I said, they definitely should have someone there weekly,
Exactly.
because you go in, just imagine you go in and someone is shooting and you come out with your life, but you have that trauma ingrained in your brain. So the next time you're faced with that sad situation, how are you going to respond? Even
Yeah.
if your executive function up here is telling you to expand X, Y, and Z, that old brain is telling you, shoot, you fighting for your life. You see what I'm saying? Because you have PTSD from the last experience.
Yes.
So of course they need help. They need help. But are you going to be stigmatized? Are you going to be labeled? Are you going to
Oh,
be shunned? Are you going to be punished? You see? So
um,
we have to get those things in order. Of course, you are so right. We need to be right there on deck. I've
oh,
always say that. I think the policeman need a psychiatric evaluation every 6 months. I couldn't do it.
mm,
Hmm.
oh
I
yeah.
agree.
Oh
I
yeah.
couldn't
Oh
do it.
yeah.
If you go
Those
in
are the
one house,
people.
you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying, and all this going off, they shooting and all this going on, and the wife,
Yeah.
you talking to the wife and trying to help the wife, and the wife then knocked you in the head with a skillet. So then the next time you're not gonna be as compassionate. You're gonna be pushing the wife against the wall and holding all of them against the wall, because last time you done got knocked in the head. You see?
Yeah.
So how
That's,
can you forget those things? You're going to
yeah.
naturally build up a bias. So they need a psychiatric evaluation every 6 months,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they need more money.
Oh yeah.
They
Oh yeah.
need more money.
You.
When you're paid well, you do a better job. When you
you
feel like you are not paid well, you feel like your services are undervalued. You're not going to do as good a job. That's just common sense. That's just
yeah.
common sense. They need more money.
Yes, I really believe that.
Yes, they do need
Thank you,
more
Dr.
money.
Thompson, saying that,
Mhm.
because I really believe that the public, I'm gonna say the public employees, I'm gonna say the firemen, the transit workers,
Yes, yes,
the policemen, the ambulance, even the hospitality. You know, that we
yes,
need more income, but with that income, we need the benefits and we need the accountability. We need to be accountable, and guess what? Our employers need to be accountable. Everybody need to be accountable to each other, for we can
yes,
put our best foot forward for the public, because we are public
yes,
employees.
yes, yes.
Accountability need to be
Yep.
accountability need to be up front. Then at the same time, oh, Dr. Thomas, I am so, oh gosh, you is making my heart just so happy. You giving me a joy pill today, you and Miss Peach. So I'm gonna go, because I could start another conversation, but I'm not gonna start another conversation, because I really believe that labor is being getting the short and hand of the stick at every time. When I
It
look at the
is. It is.
executives,
Yes.
when I look at the executives making like, I don't know, 400,000, 500,000, and he go the ones that at the bottom really working the work, the foundation of the companies and the businesses, we can't even make a decent cost of living. Then at the
You're
same
right.
time, our workplace need to be safe. Our working condition need to be safe. We need the right equipment. Then at the same time, you want us to get our mind straight. How we can get our mind straight, and you don't have our equipment, you don't have the right information that we need. I'm not an advocate of you, but I sure thank you, Dr. Thomas, because we need somebody like you on our jobs. We need somebody like you on our jobs. And then the employees don't need to be feeling intimidated. Even if
That's
the
right.
employee go and report something wrong and feel like they being misjudged, the supervisor or the director or somebody would start intimidating the employee. They mean that's something else be going on in employee mind. Well, no, I'm not gonna tell it because I'm gonna be picked on, you know. But at the same time, we have somebody like a counselor like you, Dr. Thomas, or someone affiliated and know our industry of each industry, know what we going on, will not go back and tell it, but will help us. That means we'll be a better employee. That's what I'm saying. Thank you. So I'm gonna go into.
Yeah.
I tell you, I started talking. I'm gonna turn it back over to Miss Peach. Thank you, Dr. Thomas. We really
Okay. Well,
appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. Thank
and
you. Thank you.
I found the phone
Okay.
number for the National Suicide Prevention number for
Okay.
everyone who think they, are in trouble and they're thinking about ending their life for whatever reason. It's I don't think any reason, but if you need help, the number, the National Suicide Prevention number is speed dial number is 988. So if you need help, dial 988 from your mobile device, or you can dial 1-800-273-8255. 1-800-273-8255 is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. So we're going to kind of wrap it up with that. Dr. Willa, I'm going to give it back to you so you can let everybody know how you can be reached if they feel like they felt a connection with you and want to seek out, your services or anything like that, or just, you can help them in any way. How can people get in touch with you?
Well, I am listed on Psychology Today under the psychiatrist drop down menu. My name is Dr. Willa Thompson. I'm a board certified psychiatric nurse practitioner. I am located in the Covington office right now. I do my visits virtually. I'm licensed to see patients in Louisiana, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. You can find me right there. If you want to book, and you can learn all about me. If you want to book an appointment, you go onto my page, you go down to my Headway link, and my schedule is just a self-scheduling calendar on Headway. You can put in your insurance information and self-schedule a 15-minute consult or an appointment. I am on approximately 6 insurance panels currently. All right. On Psychology Today, Dr. Willa Thompson.
All right. Thank you so much, Willa. This has been such an amazing topic and discussion. I'm so glad you had the opportunity. I'm glad I invited you to be a guest on my show. But that's going to do it, everyone, for this last episode that I sponsored for the Amalgamated Transit Union Women's Caucus with Miss Valerie Jefferson for Women's History Month, or just honoring women this month and the month of March. And I thank you all again for watching. Stay tuned. Stirring the Gumbo Pot is not done. We're still in season 2, and I will see you guys on the next episode.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Thanks
And I
for
want
having me,
everybody
guys.
to support Stirring the Gumbo Pot. Miss Cajun
That's
Peach.
right. Got it right.
Everybody support
That's
our
right. At
sister.
Cajun
Thank
Peach.
you very much.
At Cajun Peach. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Stirring the Gumbo Pot podcast. I really appreciate you all listening in and for being a supporter of the show. So, in the spirit of Don Cornelius, I wish you all love, peace, and gumbo.
Too lit, who gon' check? You can tell me none. Boss mode in effect, and my money long. If you ain't talking money, don't talk to me.